In Pack Heights, San Francisco, Davante Adams is now a Jet. Yes, Davante Adams finally traded from the Raiders to the Jets, where he reunites with Aaron Rodgers one morning too late. They needed another catch or two last night against the Buffalo Bills. But in all seriousness, the Jets are looking to save their season. They're 2-4. Aaron Rodgers is old. They're desperate. They've obviously already fired Robert Saleh. Didn't do what they wanted to for them against the Buffalo Bills. And now Aaron Rodgers has another weapon in New York. Speaking of the Jets, Haason Reddick, who hasn't shown up yet to the facility this year, has been fired by his own agency. Well, finally, he's been allowed to seek a trade. So I think the wonder there is, where will Haason Reddick end up? And 49ers fans, they're interested with every single name that comes available. They've been interested before Haason Reddick was even formally allowed to seek a trade. So I will say that, we talk about a 49ers Lions arms race. I think that the team more likely to add in the arms race when it comes to Haason Reddick is the Detroit Lions. Which direction should we walk here? We're at the top of a nice hill. We've got to go down and get coffee. We can either make it this way. That's the water down there. Or, we're not going to go that way, but that's the Presidio. I think I'm going to walk this way because it's going to be a quieter street. It's going to be a little bit easier to do things. Aiden Hutchinson went down with the brutal broken leg the other day for Detroit. I don't think that Detroit's defense was good to begin with. Even with Aiden Hutchinson involved, these guys were giving up a little bit too much. I still remember the Monday night game against the Seahawks. Compare what the 49ers were able to do to the Seahawks with their own defense. San Francisco on a short week on a Thursday night. Detroit on the road. Detroit at home just got, Jared Goff went 18 of 18, and Seattle was unable to stop a nosebleed. So Detroit won that game, but Geno Smith and company did a lot to Detroit's defense. Then they lose Aiden Hutchinson, who was performing as the best edge rusher in the league. Well, I think if you're talking about vying for the NFC Championship, if you're the Detroit Lions, you need to add an edge rusher. So you're interested in somebody like Haason Reddick. Meanwhile, the 49ers are playing better defense, and Leonard Floyd is playing a lot better than a lot of people are giving him credit for. We got a beautiful sunrise this morning. Look at that. I'm going to continue walking, give you guys a little bit more of a view. You could see the very top of the tallest building in San Francisco. That's the Salesforce Tower. As we're walking, obviously, east toward the sunrise. So I do think that arms race between teams at the top of the NFC, such as the Lions and the 49ers, is something to keep in mind. The trade deadline is not until November 5th. So all this activity now between Davante Adams to the Jets and now Haason Reddick on the trade market, all this activity is happening far before the trade deadline, which means I think we're going to have a very rumor-filled few weeks. We're going to have a fun few weeks. And the 49ers always do seem to make some sort of move when they're in contention. And they've been in contention essentially every year here under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch for the past several years. So there's always been something. So there's always been a lot of talk. And, the Davante Adams talk was a non-starter. I know people loved to talk about that, but that wasn't going to happen for the 49ers' sake. I think from the Reddick perspective, it's more interesting from the Detroit Lions' perspective because they just lost Aiden Hutchinson, and that's a massive, massive loss for Detroit. Just showing you guys the water down that direction. It's a glorious morning in San Francisco. Here, we'll get a nice view here. Davante Adams apparently already in the Jets building. There, that's spectacular. It's Russian Hill. So Davante Adams already in the Jets building. The Jets are, I think, taking on all of his salary, the no remaining salary being paid by the Raiders. So clean exit for the clean exit for the Raiders at this point. Raiders are a messy franchise. We already knew that. We already know that the Jets are a messy franchise. So I would reckon to say that this is a trade between two franchises who don't really have what they need to together. There is Aaron Rodgers at one of the spots, though. Adams is due $11.6 million in 2024. Mike says. Mike is feeding me some stats here because it's obviously hard to get some of these stats as you're walking down a hill at a 45-degree angle, but we'll make it down this way. The Aaron Rodgers thing is interesting because it's made the Jets a little bit more serious just for a short-term period of time, but they still obviously really struggle with the fundamentals of how to properly run a franchise. When you see what happened with Robert Saleh, see some of the details behind that, but they've got this window where they have to capitalize, and Aaron Rodgers is 40, and Davante Adams is his guy, and that's why they were at the top of the list in the potential Davante Adams sweepstakes for quite some time. That being said, dropping games like they did last night in the division puts them behind the 8 ball before Davante Adams was even able to step into the building and put on a uniform. But he apparently is now in the building for the New York Jets. So, Haason Reddick, Davante Adams, New York Jets at the center of all the discussions this morning. If you have any questions, I could talk about the 49ers as well. We're walking down to coffee here in Pack Heights in San Francisco. Somebody said they heard Cincinnati may go after Reddick. That looks like a consulate. That's cool. Look at the flags on that house. Or at least the consulate's residence. I like the sidewalk. What positions do the 49ers need to upgrade? So if we talk about the trade deadline in San Francisco, where do they need to get better? I've wondered about the defensive tackle position, especially ever since they lost Javon Hargrave. But that was really, really interesting last night with with this discussion that I had with somebody. They were saying, well, the 49ers lost Hargrave, but they are playing their best run defense, and it appears they're playing better defense as a whole up front since that happened. And, this is something I pointed out yesterday afternoon on Twitter. 2.6 yards per carry the 49ers have allowed over the last 3 games before wearing down against the Cardinals. So 2.6 per carry over the first half against Arizona. It was 105 degrees out on the field. But 2.6 per carry against the Seattle Seahawks, and under 2 yards per carry allowed against the New England Patriots. That's 3 straight games of good run defense that they were not delivering when they still had Javon Hargrave. Am I saying that Javon Hargrave makes the 49ers defensive line worse? I think it's a lot more complicated than that. This is exactly what I did say at the time of his triceps tear. I said that the path for the 49ers to get better would be to focus on making their run defense better, because that was Javon Hargrave's weakness, because you weren't going to make the pass rush better from the interior. And I think that the 49ers have gotten some young, hungry guys onto that pass rush and onto that run defense, and they've actually made the run defense better without Hargrave, and that by extension has allowed them to improve their run defense, improve their pass rush. The run defense has fueled the pass rush. So it's only been 3 games in that regard, but the defensive tackle position has absorbed that loss as gracefully as possible so far, but you still have to keep an eye on it. You can never have too much depth along the defensive line, right? We talk about other weaknesses that the 49ers have to fix. The secondary linebacker spots have been an issue. We know this. You could scheme around them to a certain extent, but they're so important in this scheme in the wide nine to have linebackers who can fly around beyond just Fred Warner. And Dre Greenlaw's coming back at some point. They're hoping around midseason for Dre Greenlaw, but it definitely is a point of weakness. I think that, as I talked about all offseason long, that cornerback position is so deep for the 49ers. I mean, very, very deep. Safety is a little sketchier for San Francisco, but you saw it with Renardo Green the other day. Corner is in a really, really good spot for the 49ers, and I do not expect them to have to add at that position. I mean, the addition that you're going to make at corner, if you're San Francisco, is Charvarius Ward getting fully healthy at some point. And I think that shutting him down for the game against Seattle was a move done with that as the goal. Get Charvarius Ward back to 100%. Doesn't seem like he's been there yet at this point this season. And then you've got this embarrassment of riches behind him, starting with Renardo Green, the rookie. Offensively, 49ers are blocking well. That offensive line is coming along. This is a really good team, guys. This is a really, really good team. Mike, can you send that again from Josina Anderson, but without any spaces in there? Because I can only read the very top part of it when it pops up on the screen. I can't see the whole text without leaving the video. Mike is feeding me some stuff. Got Haason Reddick on the trading block officially, and Davante Adams on the Jets officially this morning as I walked down to get some coffee. The Eagles will get a 2026 second-round pick if Haason Reddick gets traded to an NFC team. So those are the conditions for Haason Reddick and his former team, the Philadelphia Eagles, whose coach, Nick Sirianni, is picking fights or arguments with fans. That was embarrassing the other day when they beat the Cleveland Browns, his own fans. Those were a part of the conditions when Haason Reddick was traded to the Jets. We're in Pack Heights. We're in San Francisco. We're moving down here. We're moving down toward the water. Yesterday morning it was foggy. Today it's not. Today we're in line for a beautiful, beautiful day. I got to get some coffee though. Get this one started. It's supposed to be an off day. This is how good the NFL is at staying in the news. Even off days, the Tuesday, the laundry day, well, you get some of the biggest trade news that we've had in 2024. Devante Adams to the Jets and Haason Reddick officially on the trade block to go away from the Jets. The game last night was really entertaining. I swung by both the Jets and the Bills bars here in San Francisco. Check that one out. And the Bills bar, especially North Star over in North Beach, that place was going crazy. And they got a big win. Bills at the top of the division. They're at 4-2. The Jets are in 2-4, and the Jets have just gotten stronger though. So there's still a lot of season left to be played. St. Vincent de Paul Church as we make our walk down the water. These, by the way, these are trip wires for Godzilla, otherwise known as trolley bus wires. People always wonder what they are if they haven't been to San Francisco, but a trolley bus is a bus like the one that's coming right here. Look, perfect timing. We'll get a little education on what a trolley bus is for those of you who have never been to the city. There are only, I believe, 3 cities in the entire U.S. that run trolley buses. San Francisco, Seattle, and very randomly, Dayton, Ohio. How I know this, please don't ask, because I'm not even sure how I know that, but I believe it's true. Here's a trolley bus. And oh, that's a driverless car. Maybe more interesting to some of you in front of the trolley bus. See, this car right here does not have a driver. This bus does. We're not at the driverless bus era yet, but I think we're fast approaching it. And as you'll see, the trolley bus is hooked up to the overhead wires for electricity. Now it's struggling up the hill, but it'll make it. Not bad. So that's that on this morning. Any more questions? Niners, Davante Adams to the Jets. Where's Haason Reddick going? Adams, I think, what is it, a third-round conditional pick that can become a second, probably based on some sort of production metrics, production benchmarks with what he can achieve playing with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, people talking about tackles. You can't get tackles, especially worthwhile ones at the trade deadline. You know, out of any position, and I'm talking outside of quarterback, that is in short supply, tackles are at the top of the list. Adams must be a first or second team All-Pro. That's one of the conditions. All right, well, I don't know if that's escalating to a second round pick then. Going to be hard for him to, in limited time this year. There still is time left, I get it, but in relatively limited time to ascend to All-Pro status, that will not be easy. Almost down at Union Street. I can keep on walking toward the water, maybe see some businesses. It's early enough in the morning to where there's not that many people out, so good time for a live out here. Judd thinks that Reddick is going to go to the Lions. That would be the arms race I'm talking about with the 49ers. Hey, the 49ers were better than the Lions last year. I think that San Francisco is still better than Detroit. I think that San Francisco is still the most talented team in the NFC. I think they've got the best quarterback in the NFC in Brock Purdy. And I think that the Lions need a little bit extra to push past the 49ers. They needed it last year. The way that second half went last year, San Francisco was the obviously superior team. And I think that Detroit's going to, especially now without Aiden Hutchinson, they're going to need a little bit more of a push to get over that hump. So when we talk about an arms race, I think that the Lions should be very, very interested in Haason Reddick, and the 49ers should be concerned that he can go to Detroit. Especially Detroit is ahead of the 49ers right now in the standings. If these two teams play in the postseason, at this point, I think it is likely that we see that game happen in Detroit, unless, a lot turns around here over the last couple months of the year. So 49ers would have to beat the Lions on the fast track indoors in Detroit, which could be good for the 49ers. By the way, there's a football. It's like some kind of a fantasy advertisement on your trolley bus. Here is Union Street. They're not open yet, but they do have good sandwiches. There's a lot of buses now. This is what I get for coming down to the busy street. But it's where we want to be to go get coffee, right? Invader 49er says that Reddick is not in football shape. Well, he can get in football shape by the time the playoffs roll around if he goes to a contender. So it's more about arming yourself as a contender for the games that truly, truly matter, and those aren't happening until January. And right now we are in mid-October. Is it cold this morning in Tulare? That's what Martin says. That means that winter is coming. That means you're officially in fall with those cool, crisp mornings. I'm not really sure if the 49ers have options better than Devondre Campbell just sitting there in free agency or even on the trade market. The trade market maybe have something better at the linebacker position, but remember that they initially had agreed to terms with Eric Kendricks, the linebacker, but he didn't sign on the dotted line, and then he backed off and signed with the Dallas Cowboys. So you're going for over the hill, like past your prime veterans, just naturally in the situation that the 49ers were in, because they had a certain budget for that linebacker 2 spot. They couldn't spend huge amounts of money. So you're looking for guys who are no longer at the very peak of their careers, but you think they can fill in at a competent level. And as much flack as somebody like Devondre Campbell gets, the defense hasn't fallen off the rails. He obviously is a softer spot of the defense, but it's not like he's been unplayable for San Francisco. They've just got to stay afloat as a defense at this point of the season. And I think they haven't actually been able to do that. This is where I'm gonna go get coffee. And I can't wait for this place to open, Coffee Bodega, but they're not open yet. It's gonna be a new spot. Let's go check them out. Let me cross the street here. Hopefully I don't get run over. Right on the red. Jaywalking time. So, not open yet. Used to be like a dessert place called the Loving Cup. Supposedly they're the best coffee shop, one of the best coffee shops in downtown San Francisco. So we'll see what this location looks like once it opens. Farm to table coffee. Cool. Somebody asked what I think the 49ers' biggest positional weakness is against the Chiefs. Linebacker. Kansas City capitalized on the 49ers' linebacker position last year in coverage. That's for sure. That's not Fred Warner. That's what I'm just talking about, beyond Devondre Campbell. Chris Jones is going to be working against everybody on that offensive line, especially right tackle. That's a position of concern for the 49ers. There is safety. Some of the safety coverage has been lacking for the 49ers this year. Invader says that Pooney can handle Chris Jones. Well, that's a huge test for Dominic Pooney early in his career. Be careful what you wish for there. I think Dominic Pooney is great, but Chris Jones is going to be a Hall of Famer. So sometimes there's a thing that we call baptism by fire in the NFL. Aiden says the last time the Chiefs came to Levi's, they destroyed the 49ers. That's true, but it was a one-possession game early in the fourth quarter. So you got to remember that these NFL games, they can get out of hand really quickly, especially if you can't play defense. And the 49ers defense was terrible. Terrible. Bosa had his worst game. We had, what else did we watch? Bosa had his worst game. We had Charvarius Ward play extremely poorly. We had, I mean, all that I covered in that game was everybody's worst game. I don't feel that Fred Warner was particularly good, but I'm going to have to go back and watch the tape of that in 2022. It was brutal for San Francisco. So I think that it's simple. If you're the 49ers, you have to play decently defensively, or Patrick Mahomes is going to pick you apart. All right, so the coffee shop that's going to open soon back behind me, here's the coffee roastery. We can go here. That place is really good too. Luke's Local. I'm going to hang on for like a minute more. I'm going to answer a few more questions, and I'm going to go in and get my coffee. The 49ers defense is not trash right now. Somebody said the 49ers defense is trash. That's just not true. They rank number 5 in the league in DVOA. They played a hell of a game against the Seahawks. Short week. They were on the field for 78 snaps against Seattle without a lot of rest, coming off a hot game that's going to exhaust your body. They stopped the run, 2.6 per carry for the Seahawks. They made the pass inefficient. 49ers defense, I mean, if you're going to criticize them when they're bad, you better step up and give them some praise when they do well. And that was a good game against Seattle. Again, number 5 DVOA, defense adjusted value over average, shows you a lot about how this team has been able, I think, to start turning it around defensively. Now, this is the next test. Patrick Mahomes is not Geno Smith, that's for sure. But 49ers defense was definitely not trash against the Seattle Seahawks. And I think they've done a lot of good stuff over recent weeks now. I think that one thing that hurt them was the fact that they played in that triple-digit weather against the Arizona Cardinals, and they didn't get any benefit from their offense. What's going to be really important against Kansas City is complementary football. You can't turn the ball over a bunch of times and expect your defense to play well against Patrick Mahomes. You have to have your offense help your defense and vice versa. You know, the only spot where the Chiefs are ranked better than the 49ers is special teams. DVOA, 49ers offense is number 4, defense is number 5. Chiefs are number 8 and number 9. But Kansas City's special teams is number 14, and the 49ers are number 31. So just don't screw it up with special teams. And I think you got a better team than the Chiefs. And guess where else that was true? The Super Bowl last year. Don't screw it up with special teams, and you've got a better team than the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, Adams to the Jets, Reddick. We'll see if there's an arms race happening in the NFC. Everybody take care from San Francisco. We're on Union Street, and I am about to